Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talking About Wrestling right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, today, you can't see me. That's right, tonight is the final match for John Cena. It's a legendary, it's a monumental night. It's a really important, really special night. Originally, I wasn't going to tune in, but I have decided that I will. So today, rather than anything else, I said I'm probably going to tune in. I have decided I am. So today, what we're going to do is talk about not necessarily the career of John Cena. It will be the career. It'll be because I have some things pulled up that I'm going to look into and talk about. But as much as the career, it's more my complicated relationship with John Cena, and really, probably what a lot of people's relationship with John Cena kind of became. Those that are not like out and out diehard fans, right? So this isn't going to be all positive like a lot of this stuff is when we talk about an end of the career perspective, but it is my perspective, my retrospective, if you will. So, but before we get into that, I want to make sure I thank everybody again, as always, for tuning in to the Black Phoenix Network, for tuning in to Talking About Wrestling, for tuning in to all the content here on the Black Phoenix Network. The What's Up Wednesdays, articles every Wednesday, and of course, Talking About Wrestling here every Saturday. You've been tuning in thus far, thank you. And again, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, or tell somebody. Make sure you leave a comment, leave a rating. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on Spotify. Subscribe or save us or leave a rating or a comment or whatever it is that you can do to engage, because engagement is the key. So thank you again for being here. And thank you again for all your help in making this bigger, better, and make sure we expand again, because I want to grow. I want to grow so we can do more things. And before we get another thing, we know we got to take care of all the house business before we get into the real business. Got to do a little shirt of the day. Here we go. Nothing really special here. WrestleMania 34, which was the same weekend as NXT TakeOver, which was the night. I wore NXT TakeOver recently. I'm not sure when it was exactly. I wore that recently. The reason I went with this is had to get a little creative here, okay? I wanted to wear a Cena shirt. I've never owned a Cena shirt. Never really wanted to. There have been a couple that I thought were pretty cool, but for the most part, I've never owned a Cena shirt. Cena's never been one of my favorites necessarily, and even though he's had decent designs over the years, never really been any of them that I like had to have, right? So, and I usually only buy shirts mostly unless it's something real. Like if I really want it, I'll order it from the shop. But like for the most case, a lot of stuff I end up just buying from when I go to a live event. If I'm going to get something, so because I don't have a Cena shirt, because I don't have any of I did have Cena merch at one point, and I'll get to that, but I had to find something Cena adjacent. So WrestleMania 34 is the year that he did not have a match. He was sat in the crowd. Now, that's not to say that I was anywhere near him at that point in time, because we were like I was there. That's where I got this. But we were way up in the crowd somewhere. But that was the year he was in the crowd, and then they told him like midway through that he had a match with The Undertaker. Actually, they just told me he had a match, and then it ended up being with Undertaker, and it was a squash and whatever. So Cena adjacent, right? Cena adjacent. And I'm rocking the hood because it's just a different look. I like that, the mysterious. So, all that being said, let's get into it. Let's get into the career of the one and only John Cena. A fairly controversial one, if I would say so myself. Now, John Cena debuted in 2002, obviously the same year that I graduated high school. But I want to say maybe um later in the year, so I was already graduated. And that 2002 was a very weird time because I was I was at this point where, because I was in college for a little bit, so like around the time that Cena maybe debuted and some of his rise, I was not really watching. And not that I wasn't watching, because I kept up with it, but I didn't have cable to watch it. So, um, so I just didn't really see a lot of it. But I kept up with it and I knew about it. Same thing with Randy Orton, because I think both of them kind of came, like I said, around the same time. Um, but I knew what was going on. I had a lot, had an eye on things. Uh, so, but I know, and I think I actually watched the episode. Like I watched, even with that, I did watch a lot of the evolution and growth of Cena, right? So like him as the heel rapper, him as the essentially the prototype, because that's what he was more or less when he first debuted, just John Cena, um, and him transitioning from that to the rapper was a very interesting uh, direction to take for them, right? Um, but obviously, it really worked, because next thing you know, biggest thing in the company, and it happened. I won't say that it happened like overnight. They made him the heel, and it's almost like that became, as we've seen with so many things, that became so popular that eventually they had to turn him. I don't know if they ever had plans to like, um, if they ever really saw him, because the story is that he was almost fired before the rapper gimmick, right? I don't know if they ever, once it turned, that they thought, we could ride this all the way to the top, and he could be the top guy for the next like 20 years or so. So, I mean, not the whole 20 years, but you get it. Next decade, at least. I don't know if they saw that or not, but if they did, and if they didn't, then they got, then eventually they got there. Um, and it's been, he's heavily put, because like I said, his run is like a decade long. He's never had like a serious enough injury to really shorten his time. He never left. Like his run at the top is a lot different than like a Hogan and even like a Stone Cold, because he's definitely the like the third guy, at least from my time frame of wrestling, the third guy to be like the guy. There have been other guys that are like the guy. I don't think anybody's been solidified like he's got. Like they're trying to kind of make Roman in some ways that guy, which I don't know how that's gonna work, because he's a heel, and you never really have a heel top guy. You have like a top baby face. There hadn't been a top baby face. So Cody wants to move into that role now. All of that is kind of like, we'll see, right? But and truth be told, honestly, Cena may be the last guy that can be that. This last real world champion thing, or last real champion, or whatever it is, he may be the last one. I'm perfect. I'm completely honest about that. I don't think Cody can Cody will be big now that he's in WWE, but there's something about Cody that, while it does connect, I don't think it does what Cena does, and I don't think it does what Austin does. I don't think it did. It may be close to Hogan, but what Hogan was back then, may not translate the same now. Um, and I think the thing about all of this is that, like, while they all were top guys, they were very unique to their time periods, one way or the other. And I don't know what that looks like going forward. I don't know if WWE can produce that. Um, so that's getting off the topic. But he has had a very long career, very long run at the top. He has been showered with accolades over his career, including now being the only 17-time WWE World Champion. WWE World, however you want to classify it, but all of his world title wins are in WWE. He's definitely the only person to have done that, which is always interesting because, like, trying to compare him to like Ric Flair, when Ric Flair's world titles are like spread across um, WWF, NWA, WCW, and who knows where else. And there's other people that we just completely ignore, like Jerry Lawler, who actually probably has more than both of them. That's neither here nor there. Um, but uh, he's as they say, the never before seen 17. He's that. They finished it off by making him a Grand Slam champion for like a couple of weeks, um, by winning the Intercontinental title. Good ways to send him off, you know. Uh, and really just had a career, like I said, that was kind of up and down as far as like fan support. I think he's way more beloved now, and he's getting a lot more love now from people who um, recognize what he contributed to the business, what he has been for that long, and are willing to give him his flowers on his way out. Me included, because again, I was not the hugest. Again, I had a very complicated relationship with John Cena. So let's go back again. So I watched some of the evolution. I didn't really take notice, like you say, until the rapper gimmick actually started. And it was hit for me. And you gotta understand, you see what you're looking at, right? And definitely a hip hop fan, hip hop head that I am, um, to see a rapping wrestler. And he actually wasn't bad. Like it wasn't like a trash gimmick. It wasn't like a whack rap. It wasn't like a white boy playing a rapper kind of thing, whatever. Like, he actually could rap because he did have some experience there. So that kind of that kind of worked itself out for me and drew me in. And I was all in. Um, Another thing about me, I love. Maybe you don't know this, but I do. I love custom titles. I love the titles that. Sure, the title is. I love anything that's outside of the norm. Okay, that applies to a bunch of stuff. I love callbacks. I love references. I love amalgamations. Anything that's outside of the norm, I typically love when they do. So that applies to, if we're talking NBA. I love the NBA City Edition jerseys because they're always completely outside of what the normal set looks like, right? Especially the year that they did the mixtape mashup jerseys, which was, I think, 21, 22, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, or something to that effect. Love those jerseys. If we're talking wrestling gear, I love when they wear wrestling gear that calls back to something else or that references something in a story, because again, outside of the norm. So that is something that I truly enjoy. So with custom titles, it's the same thing. Um, when he won the United States Championship, and he came with the first spinner belt. Now, let me break it down for those that don't know. Okay. When 50 Cent and G Unit came out, that spinning chain was everything. We had never seen anything like it. Prefaced by the spree wheel rims that spun. I think now they're spinners. We call them spree wheels back in the day, but now they're spinners. So they were inspired by the spinner rims, which we had never seen till we saw them on cribs. Kind of passe now, although I've seen some recently. So now, here comes Cena. Well, sorry, here comes 50, who took that concept, put it in a chain, and the chain spun. Crazy. So guess what? Because it was the hot thing, now Cena comes out with the spinner title. Crazy when you first see it, right? And again, calling out to our culture. So it's like, oh, okay, I rocks with that. I had the John Cena Chain Gang spinner chain. I don't know where it is. I don't know how I ended up misplacing it, losing it. Maybe I threw it away. I don't know. Don't have it anymore. But I had the Cena spinner chain. So that probably is the only piece of Cena merchandise that I have actually owned. But uh, that title was clean as a whistle. And he went on to defend it. He had some he had a pretty memorable run. But you could tell when they were gearing him up for the world title. He had that for like a year. Or he dealt with that for majority of the year. Like he lost it at one point, won it back, ended up losing it. Like no, he lost it I think to Carlito, and ended up winning it back, and then something. There was a whole lot of stuff to that. But all of that was the run up to him winning the title at WrestleMania 21. An interesting decision. So he and Batista, well, no, Batista won the Rumble straight out, if I'm not mistaken. That was the one where Vince came out and blew his quads trying to jump into the ring because they had to restart the match. I don't recall how Cena ended up getting to WrestleMania, but he got to WrestleMania to face JBL for the title. And wins the title, and we're off to the races. And he's hot, you know. Then he debuts, because of course he does, the WWE World Spinner title. And then that drops and it's like, oh, he did it again. This is crazy. Because that joint dropped and it's bling, bling, a la bling, bling, a la bling, right? And the W spins inside of it. Crazy. Perfect for that character, right? So he stays on SmackDown. Actually, he wasn't on SmackDown long. But of course, because Raw's the flagship, eventually they moved him to Raw. He's still on Raw, but of course, eventually they're going to move him to SmackDown. Um, and first feud is like Christian and Chris Jericho. Then it's Chris Jericho. Maybe a couple other things. And then he ran into Kurt Angle. And I guess we can say that Kurt Angle exposed him. Because that's where we start to get you can't wrestle. For me, at least, that's the first that you started hearing, yo, this dude can't wrestle. And then we got him beating Kurt Angle, who is a wrestling machine. This doesn't make sense. And for me, that's where the turn. If I'm remembering correctly, that's where the turn actually happened. Is in that few. I recall completely that being where the turn actually happened for John Cena. From there, it seemed like it was 50-50, right? He gets to Chicago against Triple H in WrestleMania. One of the first times, completely booed. Triple H was completely the babyface. As the heel, Triple H was completely the babyface in that match. They tried to blame it on the Chicago crowd, which makes a lot of sense considering that it's Chicago. But they were not feeling Cena. And like the turn was in place at that point. It never got any better. Throughout, like it didn't get better until like now. You know? And then at some point, Cena's a very interesting perspective, is a very interesting character because despite where he started, because he was a rapper and he had some of that raunch and he had some of the, like, he was very edgy. He came in that ruthless aggression era, which was coming out of the attitude era. So there was still some of that edginess left over from the attitude era in the ruthless aggression era. Cena came in that era, and then the character started doing some changes, right? It was less hip hop and more just him kind of him as a guy. Still kind of influenced by the culture, but not being of the culture necessarily. He wasn't like a rapper, especially once he did the Marine, because then he came like this fake Marine coming out doing like all the salute now that came from after he did the Marine movie, and then he started doing the salute and the whole thing. So he go figure. Um, so the character started to change, and with that, as the ruthless aggression era began to fade out, now seen as the guy, then we started to get the PG era. So throughout the PG era is where again Cena is the guy throughout the entirety of the PG era, basically. Uh, and that same turn that we're talking about, people made um, that people made when he went up against Kurt Angle, that turn even more widen a gap, basically, because now we're in the PG era. Now you're marketing him towards kids, right? But the kids love him. Women love him because he's built like whatever. But men think he sucks, and that manifested itself into what you could hear. You can hear it audibly every time. It was a regular thing. No matter what he did, where he went, no matter who he was against, it was regular. You would hear the screams and cheers from the children and the women, and the boos from the men. That is a very audible difference, auditory difference, I guess. So, and that gave way to the "Let's go, Cena, Cena." So you do it in that voice because you know who says what. Like it turned that much. So, where do I fit in all of this? I didn't hate Cena actually, like a lot of people did. I definitely realized that he wasn't a great wrestler. I had a friend that we talked about today, like he wasn't a great wrestler. Listen, let me tell you something. Despite what you might think, especially with all the glaze we're putting on it now, he's still not a great wrestler. In the same way that like we know Hogan could go more than he did. We've seen like those Japan tapes and stuff like that. He could do more than he did, but he did what worked, right? Austin kind of had an excuse because after his neck injury, he never wrestled the same. But if you watch some of his old matches before the neck injury, especially like the WCW stuff, he could go. But WWE wants you to work a certain way. WWE wants you to work a certain way. So it's different. Cena was a pretty mid worker, and he's still kind of mid. There's things that you look at that he does, the way he take. I've said this the entire time, and I say it now because I still see it. There's something about the way that Cena bumps. Not to say he doesn't take flat back bumps, he does, but he does this weird like he falls in a way sometimes that's like just completely not something that you're used to seeing in wrestling. So I don't hate Cena, but I can absolutely agree that so much of what made Cena Cena is kind of corny. It got corny. So the thing that was so cool when I kind of first attached to it, over time became corny. And then you could and I think here with him, at least for I think people of my age and kind of my generation, especially and then the internet is becoming way more of a thing. You're starting to see like what it looks like when people start to notice what the booking is doing, right? So, for instance, Hogan won all the time. Hogan was champion for like over a year or several years, if I'm not mistaken. It was a couple of years, yeah. Hogan was champion for a couple of years. Wasn't really in the internet to go on and bitch about the damn Hogan winning again. Damn, they didn't put over such and such. They could have put over, that wasn't the thing. Austin won a lot. Never seemed like, oh, they're pushing Austin down our throats and because everybody love Austin. It seemed like, at least, and if there was that to contend, there wasn't an internet for real, especially not the way it is now. There wasn't an internet for everybody to go on and complain. But with Cena, it was like, okay. And now we get Cena wins laws, right? Because Cena always won. And I, for one, didn't care for it often. I think there are a lot of people, I think there are a lot of people in a lot of moments that suffered because we were in the Cena era. A lot of things. There are a lot of things. For all the good moments, there are a lot of moments that, like, you know. And he had some really good matches. So the thing with Cena, like we say, is a pretty mid in ring performer. He does capture the emotion. He does connect with the crowd. The reason this farewell tour is working the way that it's working is because, again, his career started in 2002. He won his first championship in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So you got on this train in 2005 and now it's 2025. You're 20 years old. You grew up with Cena. Okay. Let me take that back. You're at least 20 because it's been at least 20 years of championship. So if you were, let's say, 5 when Cena first won his title, and you've been watching, you've known Cena as the guy for the majority of your life, and you're getting to see him retire this way, and they're rolling out the red carpet for him. Way better. The finale is going great. The whole thing hasn't been necessarily, but and the most recent comparison we have to that is like Sting and how AEW treated Sting on his way out, which is world class and probably one of the best that we've seen. Because Flair didn't get that, and then Flair didn't stay retired. Or didn't, Flair didn't get that way. He had a good send off, but it wasn't that. Shawn didn't get that because, again, Cena has been the guy for the better part of the last 20, the better part of the last 20 years. So I think it's within reason that he does get a send off like that. But the reason that this is working is because the children that grew up with him, the reason this is so emotional for so many people, there are children who grew up with him the way a lot of children grew up with Hogan, the way a lot of children grew up with Austin, a lot of So he has his generation of people that grew up with him as the guy. And it went a long time, a lot longer than any of the other two I named. So there's that. But all in all, still a mid worker. But he has the emotion, he has the intensity, he has the intangibles. And with WWE, you don't have to necessarily be a great worker to be the guy. Now, has he gotten a whole lot better over the years? Absolutely. He's incorporated some things that kind of make his matches kind of must, a lot of the farewell tour has been him doing some of his rivals' moves very badly in most cases, but he did them because again, he's not a great not a great worker. He's just he's awkward. If you really watch how he moves, how he does stuff, he's just awkward in how he moves, and I think it's that when you see people who are so fluid, people who are so smooth in the ring, you take a swerve, now swerve move. You take like even and I'm not even trying to go with AEW references because there are people in WWE as well in this um in this generation. Or you take a Randy Orton, right? Or any really anybody. If we do anybody. Cena moves very particularly. It's a very specific way, and it's awkward. It's kind of blocky. It's weird how he moves and how he does things, but he's the guy. But he had a lot of great matches because he had great dance partners. And I know that I don't like to have that conversation sometimes, but it's true. He had great dance partners, and every time he had a great dance partner, he had a great match. Just about every time. Um, AJ Styles for one. The Shawn Michaels matches were classic because it's Shawn Michaels. It's a common thread, you know. Um, Edge had great matches with Edge. Great matches with the match. So I have some very specific Cena moments that I enjoy um, throughout the years. So we're gonna talk like some highs and some lows of John Cena's career. Now I got something pulled up because truth be told, I'm doing this all off the top of my head. I didn't write anything down. I didn't even know I was gonna talk about John Cena today. I was like, what happened in the wrestling world? I'm like, there's C2 stuff, of course, that happened. Dynamite was good as well, but actually it was great because they had that Speedball Mike Bailey and Kyle Fletcher match that was, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Not this time. For once, we're gonna talk strictly WWE and the WWE guy and John Cena. So I didn't know what I was going to talk about, so I had to pull some stuff up. I knew once we got here, we were here. So again, I think John Cena had some really good moments. That so I pulled some stuff up for reference, so I don't. Yeah. Let's see. Bleacher Report is talking about his top 10 matches. But this guy stop hitting this mic. And I'm not in any order. I'm just going to kind of as I see them and as they come to mind, I'm going to mention them when I mention them. So, Cena versus Edge, Unforgiven 2006. That's that TLC match with Edge. One of the first times he came out in the blue rated R superstar gear. I'm looking at a picture of it. That's why it stands out to me. And again, remember, when I told you that I love callbacks. That show was in Toronto. Blue Jays, blue gear, Edge is from Toronto. Love to see it. That one definitely stands out. That feud with Edge is really memorable, and it's weird because being the guy, because he's the guy. So many of his most memorable moments involve somebody challenging him being the guy, if that makes sense. For instance, Edge cashing in on him that first time because this isn't really a Cena moment, it's more of an Edge moment, but that it happened on Cena and the way that it happened is very particular. Now, again, remember was this the Chicago? Yeah, 22. Yeah. So this was the Chicago Mania. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So Cena versus Edge, head of Mania and all of that, New Year's Revolution. Edge comes out, cashes in Money in the Bank after the Elimination Chamber match, which is again why that was so Like, because we knew he had the contract, it had never been cashed in, so we didn't know how it worked. We just thought, oh, you just have a shot whenever you want a shot. I don't know where I would love to hear where the idea of, and I guess maybe because Edge had it and because Edge was the ultimate opportunist, that it made sense to do it that way. Because it absolutely did, again, for that character. Because why would the ultimate opportunist want a match, a fair, straight up match, when you can get him when he's at his weakest after he just defended the title in New Year's Revolution in the Elimination Chamber? Makes perfectly good sense for Edge. And I say that very particularly to say, because what we've done since then, not so much. We've done a few creative things here and there, but it's there have been like a handful of people. I'm gonna have to go through and this is a subject for another day. There's a handful of people who have actually called their shot with Money in the Bank and actually did something with it. And RVD is first and only person that comes to mind right now. But that's neither here nor there. But this TLC match at Unforgiven was very much a great match, and I want to say probably the first like ladder or TLC match that he's ever been in. And it was, again, this is Edge, TLC in Toronto, all the odds stacked in his favor, and Cena came out on top. That is a very good match, and I definitely recommend go watch that one. We would be remiss. I don't know how in order or out of order I'm doing this, because I'm kind of just taking you through a lot of his moments, a lot of things that happened here. I'm gonna hold off on this one. I'm stop hitting this mic at some point. I'm gonna hold off on this next one that they had a list. I'm not gonna put that in there. Again, the WrestleMania match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. Shawn gave him an amazing performance, and that hour-long match they had on Raw that I think ended in like a draw. No. Shawn Michaels won that one because it wasn't for the title. So yeah, that was also great match. Great match. So if you want to know, I'm looking at Bleacher Report's top 10 John Cena matches. Some of these are mine. These I'm just commenting on how I remember them. Cena versus AJ Styles definitely was, again, I don't want to say greatest, but that's the first Cena versus AJ Styles SummerSlam 2016, where AJ beat him, because I didn't see that happening. And here's the thing, and again, it's always about the dance partners for me more than it is about him, because AJ, coming from TNA, really coming from New Japan, because he actually came to WWE off the New Japan run, but AJ is my guy. I've said that before. I've shown the DVD. Still have sitting right here. AJ is my guy. Okay. My guy, AJ Styles. And I was terrified. I've said this plenty of times before. I was terrified that when AJ got to WWE, they were not going to use him correctly. They were going to treat him like they treat most TNA guys. They did not do that. His first WrestleMania was against Chris Jericho, and he lost, which I think is still a stupid ass decision. And I was there for that one too. But right after that, shot him up to the main event with Roman Reigns. Then not too long after that, they paired him up with the Good Brothers, and we were kind of off to the races. So about that SummerSlam, 1-on-1, AJ Styles, John Cena, I'm like, man, are they gonna do the thing? And they did the thing. AJ Styles beats John Cena. Huge, solidifying, major thing. Then later on, he goes on to win the W. So again, put it in perspective. In the first year that AJ Styles was in WWE, He was almost immediately to the main event. He beat John Cena at SummerSlam. Like a month or two later, beats Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship in the first year. Now, he lost it to Cena again at Royal Rumble. Again, a dumbass decision to me, but whatever. That match was good too, actually. I'm not even gonna hold it. That match was good too. Um, so AJ's done pretty well for himself in WWE. But that's SummerSlam 20. Again, for me, a lot of Cena's biggest successes are the times that he put people over. And I say he, but because sometimes it was him. And but uh, that match is definitely great. I definitely will be that. Another one of my favorite, I didn't watch that. Another one of my favorite uh, John Cena moments that is actually about him is that Royal Rumble, I want to say maybe 2008. Yep, that's right. 2008, where he returned unexpectedly from injury. That one again, give you perspective. It was only a couple of months before that that Randy Orton had injured him, or he was injured, and um, and Randy Orton won the belt. So we thought he was out for WrestleMania season. For him to show up number 30 in the Rumble, the pop in Madison Square Garden, the shot, that one of the times I was like, I remember watching him going like, what? You know, and for him to then win, go on, uh, um, get his match prior to Mania that leads us to the triple threat between John Cena, Randy Orton, and Triple H at Mania 24. That's where he had the marching band entrance, which was also done by Bianca Belair. Much better, but in my opinion. Um, but that one was good. Cena's marching band entrance was actually good. And again, this is in the middle, another thing, biting some cultures. But neither here nor there. But him showing up in that Rumble was a huge, huge moment for him. Definitely one of the shocks. I mean, another match that's iconic. And is it strange that it's iconic considering how I feel about one of these two people? Really, both of them, but definitely one more than the other. Money in the Bank 2011, CM Punk versus John Cena. The match itself was great. Everything surrounding the match was great. We had the pipe bomb before this. Punk was at his hottest in WWE. He hadn't pissed me off yet. And the ending shot of that pay-per-view with Punk blowing Vince McMahon a kiss as he absconds with the WWE title through the crowd. You couldn't write, Now, again, this is another one of those situations. The story here was Punk. But Cena did his thing, and they had a spectacular match, something that I have gone back and watched plenty of times. I have it on DVD as well. DVDs are these CD. Oh, you know what? I'm not getting to it. If you don't know what DVD is, stream it somewhere. I'm assuming it's still on Peacock. Just go stream it. The whole review was great, actually. But Money in the Bank 2011, John Cena versus CM Punk for the World Championship. Everything about it, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Yeah, I talked about that. So those are some good moments here. Let me see what else I can. Ruthless aggression. Go through the doctor thing. No, we're just gonna go through the thing. Okay. Make a Wish guy. Big Show. So I'm going to cover a couple things here because this is now 17 moments that made John Cena the face of the era and a global star. One of them is I mentioned WrestleMania 20. He won the United States Championship from the Big Show. Him hitting the FU/attitude adjustment on Big Show was his Hogan Andre moment, and I'm pretty sure they're going to say this in this article because it absolutely, maybe not. If they don't, it should. It absolutely is that moment. The same moment as Hogan body slamming Andre, Cena, FU, and Big Show was absolutely the same moment for him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another, again, another moment of, this is actually another memorable. It's always about the dance partners, and it's always about him putting people over. See, again, therein is the benefit of him being the guy for so long. And I always say, like, there are a lot of people who suffered. A lot of people he put over, and those people that he put over, it meant something. So that's kind of the catch-22 of things, right? You don't want to put them over too much, but I think he did. He did put people over where they need, in most cases, where they need to be put over. One of those cases I mentioned before, or maybe I didn't, but later in 2006, after this TLC match. No, it was before. This was before the TLC match. We got to go back some. And I mentioned RVD being the one who cashed in his Money in the Bank. Forgot that was against Cena too, but and to call his shot. He called his shot at ECW One Night Stand. You want to see the most unique John Cena match? I promise you, it is that one. All that vitriol that I just mentioned before about the moment he faced Kurt Angle and people turned into, that's when he started getting booed. That reached a fever pitch at ECW One Night Stand, where RVD is facing John Cena for the WWE Championship. That crowd, well, and they, it's an ECW crowd. It's a pure ECW crowd. Sure, there were some WWE guys in there, but they're like, these are ECW fans. John Cena walking into an ECW arena, and it felt like an ECW arena. And it felt like that energy all the way through. And for him to get booed that way, to finally end up playing up some of the heel stuff. One of the few times in his, that he really played up the heel part of, because he had to, because he was the heel. He was 110% the heel in that match. And he wrestled that match. So, again, why is one of the most unique? One of the few times you actually see him acting as a heel. Still trying to be a little bit of a babyface, but he's the heel. 100% the heel. The crowd shitted on him the entire way. It was a joy to see. And we're back. Sorry about that. There were some technical difficulties. As in, something happened with my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi completely went out. Not sure what happened there. But as I was saying, the crowd shitted on him at One Night Stand, and RVD then wins. Dubious circumstances, but RVD wins. And of course, everything that happened after that was kind of crazy. But the moment itself, insane. So again, one of the most unique Cena matches you will ever see, because he had to be the heel. In London, that was in London. Royal Rumble return. Talk about that. Best of the world. Talk about that. So another thing that happened, is an interesting few years for Cena there, right? There's that Mania 24 match that I talked about. There was Mania 25. It's kind of a weird year. First year, I think he won the World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe. Maybe not. He may have won it before that. 26 against Batista. Had some weird stuff going on. 27 against The Miz. And Between 26 and 27, things get interesting. So after 26, no, that's not right. That's not right. My time's messed up. So for Mania 27, The Rock has returned. Now, Cena had been talking shit about The Rock, and The Rock's back, and he definitely called out Cena. And then Rock pretty much cost him the main event at 27. And the next night, they make it official for Mania 28. The Rock versus John Cena. Once in a lifetime. Wild. Right? But who would have thought? Rock hadn't wrestled in ages at that point. So who would have thought? But prior to that, because that was 2012. But we got to talk about the misses. And I'll talk about the times that he didn't put people over. The most egregious example of him not putting somebody over is when you think about what the Nexus could have been if it were not for John Cena. And one particular moment, SummerSlam 2010, and our main event is Team WWE versus Team Nexus. It's like a 7-on-7. We brought back Daniel Bryan to be on the side of Team WWE because they didn't have a last guy. You got like Miz on the team, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Miz may not have been there actually. But Edge, Jericho, Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan, John Cena, two more guys. And it may have been Miz and R-Truth, but I highly doubt that. I was close. R-Truth and John Morrison. Again, remember, Bret Hart was in there having a match for some reason. Bret Hart had a slick run in 2010. It's kind of weird, but it happened. And he didn't get, obviously, he didn't get with WWE. Bret didn't get a good rollout for his actual retirement, though there was never like a big thing about his retirement, but whatever. Nonetheless, 7-on-7 elimination tag. We get down to the final. Cena's the last man on the team. I want to say there were maybe 3 people left on the Nexus side. Nexus was as hot as the Shield. I want to make sure I give context. Nexus was as hot as the Shield. They were booked just as strong. They had terrorized the roster in numbers, as opposed to like Shield was just 3 guys and they would show up and they would do what they think, whatever. But the Nexus had numbers. Did any of them work as good as the guys in the Shield? Maybe not. But they had numbers. And they were built very strongly. So we get to SummerSlam match. The thing to do here to solidify the next 6 months at least, have the Nexus win. I know that eventually you want to give the Nexus their comeuppance. This isn't the time. Because this is the first big test. They've interfered in places. They've beaten up people backstage. But this is the first time they are facing a gang of legends from the Team WWE. And again, gang. Cena, Bret Hart, Edge, Jericho. R-Truth, he wasn't a legend yet. Daniel Bryan wasn't a legend yet. He would be. Morrison isn't really a legend, but I mean, whatever. So we get down to Cena's alone. So it's two people left. Sorry. Cena on one side, Wade Barrett, Justin Gabriel on the other. Wade Barrett gives Cena a DDT on the concrete floor. That doesn't do it. Justin Gabriel goes for the 450, misses. Cena gets the 1, 2, 3. What? But okay, all right. We're down to Cena and Barrett. 1-on-1. And Cena makes Wade Barrett tap to the STF. And the Nexus never mattered again. Never mattered again. Were never actually a threat again. You never took them serious again. You know they weren't going to be stars again. Never was the same again. That was SummerSlam. By the Rumble, Wade Barrett was out. CM Punk was the new leader. By WrestleMania, Gabriel and Slater had broke off and gone to join the core on SmackDown with Wade Barrett and Ezekiel Jackson. All of that, and none of them were ever. I won't say none of them were ever stars. But Wade Barrett's the only one with the company now. Heath Slater eventually he made some noise. He did some stuff. He did become a character, and he went to TNA. And I don't know if he's still in TNA or not, but you know he did some stuff. David Otunga's just doing legal advice on YouTube. I don't know where Justin Gabriel is. PJ Black. He maybe in New Japan still. Who knows? There was Ryback. There was Ryback. He was big for a minute, and now he's just trolling on the internet. Who cares? You know, Darren Young may still be top. I don't know where he's chopping it up. He's still active though. He is still active. Skip Sheffield was Ryback. Sorry, he's saying just Gabriel, David Otunga, and Michael Tarver. Maybe a bodyguard somewhere. I feel like I saw something about him recently. Who knows? Definitely the worst moment. I'm reading one now that's talking about his raps. I mean, not his raps, his worst moments. Or cringeworthy moments. Yeah, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Don't care about that. Another one. Damian Sandow cashing in and losing very randomly on a Raw. One of the first people, if I'm not mistaken, to lose their cash in match. Cena is in that crowd though. Cena has cashed in a couple of times and failed. Yeah. So yeah. Rey Mysterio is another one. Rey Mysterio wins the title. This is after Money in the Bank. CM Punk leaves with the title. They do a tournament to determine new champion. Cena's fired. Rey Mysterio wins the WWE Championship. And by the end of the night, somehow John Cena's the champion again. But here comes CM Punk. People kind of forgot all about the Rey Mysterio part of that because of CM Punk. But yeah, that happened. That happened. And the thing about the Nexus thing is that people were trying to tell him, hey, the call here is to have them win. So like, no. I'm gonna do it. What? Stuff like this hard. And again, so the other thing that we're talking about is once in a lifetime against The Rock. So let's move on there. And we're going to talk about this and kind of wrap this up soon. I didn't mean to go this long. But once in a lifetime with The Rock. Huge match in Miami. Major, major, major. I wanted to go so bad to that Mania. Could not get to Miami. I was in Atlanta, but I wanted to get to Miami for that Mania so bad. For some reason, I always thought before Cena was a thing, I thought Rock versus MVP, the Miami boys, in Miami would have been dope, but not even close now, right? But because I thought MVP could be, Rock-ish. Cena made a lot more sense, obviously, but did the right thing. Match was pretty good. It was one of those. It was one of those. Rock Hogan. Rock. It was one of those things where it's just who cares what the match is like. The electricity from it is enough, and they delivered, right? And Rock gets the win. And all is right in the world. And then somehow we decide, no, we need to do it again, twice in a lifetime. What? Why? What? But we got it so right the first time, and you built the whole thing off of once in a lifetime. So why would you do it again? Why would you? We didn't. You know what it was? It was ego, and the plan probably was the whole time to do a rematch. But if it was, why build it as once in a lifetime? There's so many other adages you could have used than once in a lifetime. And the first one was way better than the second one because Rock got hurt. So, which is why I say, as we're heading into, and this is probably where I can take this now, which is why I say, I've seen online, I'm talking about this, I've seen online for weeks, maybe even months, since the entire farewell tour has been going on, that at the end of the tour, at some point, some different way, but I've seen specifically Cena either loses or wins the final match. And he's getting ready to go, but then out comes The Rock. And Rock says, not yet. Me and you, WrestleMania, one last time. And then they go to WrestleMania and they have a match in Vegas, part 2. And, there was a fan theory until like yesterday where someone at WWE on WWE.com posted that very theory as a what if on the website. Now, yeah, they don't typically tease stuff like that and for it to come true. So it's probably it is just trolling or just whatever, somebody doing content. Which means one or two things, first of all. Again, I saw this theory months ago, which means that either WWE has paid bots on all these social media sites to go out there and which I absolutely know they do in real life, but that they have these bots out here to just throw out these narratives just in case. Because how did that line up that perfect? Or what is more likely, whoever this person was on WWE.com that saw that pretty much just took the idea as their own and put it on the website. Do I think that'll happen? Absolutely not. However, the second thing, we are talking about the company, because here's what I said. I said, to build this so hard It's John Cena's final match. The entirety of this event, this Saturday night's main event, is John Cena's final match. The entirety of it, John Cena's final match. To then, at the end of it, go, psych, would be diabolical. It's not just the big. See, here's the difference between it. So they charge higher prices for these tickets because of what this event is. It's the same as Sting's match, and AEW did it with Sting, so it makes perfectly good sense that they would do that. So they charge a higher price. They charge higher prices for this Saturday night's main event, right? They're running all this merch, the final time, all that kind of stuff. Think of how many people have bought all of these damn belts that have come out for every city that he's been in this year. And then not to say that changes anything, because it still is the farewell tour, right? Because what do you, if that were to happen, so what are you saying? Like, because that's Mania. So is he not going to be on TV till Mania? Is Rock not going to be on TV till Mania? Because I couldn't see neither one of those. So obviously this doesn't make sense. But if they were, but would they do it? This is the same company that said once in a lifetime, it's the only time you're going to see it. And then did it again the very next year. So I don't think it'll happen. But I definitely don't put it past WWE. So go figure. And then we can get on up to like this heel turn. Speaking of this farewell tour, a lot of people have hated the heel turn. It's weird because it's something that people have wanted for so long, wanted to see, and it didn't pan out the way that anybody wanted it to. And I think a lot of that is because of what John Cena was willing to do and not willing to do. And that has made a lot of the difference there. But and I'm not even really sure. I think it could have been great if it were done different. And it's strange to do it like that in his final year. And I guess it's like it wasn't working for whatever reason. Because he was trying to do Cena as he is, how he looks, what he is, and all of that, but a heel. And that's it, everything about it was strange to try to do, right? Because when we wanted the heel turn, we wanted a complete repackaging. You got to look different. We want different music. We want you to wrestle to look different because you can lead as the heel now, right? We wanted something different, and they gave us, just Cena, as he's always been, but just being an asshole, basically. And it never really worked. His reasoning never really worked. His, it just never really clicked for a lot of people. I didn't like, because again, I hadn't been watching for real, but I again kept up as always. I didn't like that it wasn't enough change. As I spoke earlier about, I like change. I like to see, the newness. Ooh, I forgot about this one. I had to talk about that. I like the newness of things. So I wanted to see something different. And there was so much opportunity to do such interesting things throughout this entire time. They never did. And I just saw something that made me think about that. When we talk about heel Cena, another one of the moments of Cena's that I loved, hated, and loved. Again, we're talking about him putting people over and then not putting people over. This is a perfect example of both. Bray Wyatt should have. I spoke about this in another video. If you go back and watch, 2 times in particular. One of them was Cena should have put over Rusev at WrestleMania 31, but he didn't, and he completely derailed. See, that's the thing. When he puts people over, you're good. If you get derailed, if you lose, if he doesn't put you over, you get derailed. He's the make or break point for a lot of people. For a lot of people. Rusev was one. Rusev lost, never was the same. Never was the same. Could have been a main event guy. Could have been main event adjacent. Never made it. Because he lost to Cena. And next up, Bray Wyatt should have beat Mania. Should have been John Cena at Mania 30. 2, 30, 30. So it was 2 in a row. It was Bray Wyatt and then it was Rusev. Didn't put either of them over. Absolutely should have. Especially Bray. But the flip side was the rematch. Because Firefly Funhouse, I know there are a lot of critics. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It is a mind fuck, a mushroom trip, like all the things, but I love it. To see something completely different than what you would imagine you would see. It's like a fever dream that touches so many things of his career and dives into his. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. And then he was gone. But like, we didn't see him again until Mania. That was what, 36? He wasn't at 37. He wasn't at 38. He was at 39 when he went against Austin Theory. And he showed up at 40. And then of course everything was 41. He could have used some of that, maybe. We just wanted to see a different Cena when he turned heel. The moment was great. The moment was great. And that's another thing that ties him and The Rock going into, that if that were to happen, because that's kind of an unresolved thread that just kind of happened and we never, So that could happen. Again, I don't see it happening, but that would be the thread there. But the moment of the heel turn was great. Not as great as Hogan's. Sorry, nothing will beat Hogan's. But it was great. It was a great moment. It was a great moment when you never thought you would see it, So, absolutely great there. Let's see what else. Going cringe-worthy moments again. All of these are about the same. It's literally the same thing. Derailing the Nexus. The battle should have been booked to define a victory next week. Thing next time. Yeah, absolutely. Same thing I said. I've said all this. So let's read what he said about the Nexus thing. I want to bring that up. I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but I'm doing a lot. He said, I show up to work and I do what I'm told. I don't pick how the story is told. I get told that, but I do pick what goes on in the story. And in that particular moment, it was too much. I think if presented in another way, it could have been a little more palatable, but I can't change the television show. I've never had that power, and that's something I don't do. If you look at a laundry list of my opponents, you can tell that it's exactly how I operate. I guess wrong on the way that the story was told, and I guess that's why people are so up in arms about it. But we tell so many stories, I was wrong once. Once? Starting to become a habit. Now, the argument could be made for like Rusev. The argument could even probably be made for Bray, but not really. You derailed Bray. Bray never returned. Bray lost to you. The next year he lost to The Undertaker. The year after that he wasn't even there because he was there, but he was hurt, so he didn't compete. Was he at 33? Lost at 33 to Randy Orton. 34, he like showed up in the Battle Royal with Matt Hardy or something, so he wasn't even competing there. I think he wasn't at 35 because they hadn't debuted the Fiend yet. 36 was Firefly Funhouse, so that was that. 37 and lost to Randy Orton in Mania. That's his Mania run. One win, and it was in the Firefly. It was in a cinematic match. Sure, Bray had the World Championship a few times actually, 2 or 3. But it took the Fiend to bring back Bray Wyatt, and even that was kind of fumbled. So, Jonathan, it's a complicated relationship, man. It's a complicated history. Um, I'm running through a few more things, trying to see. People are talking about his greatest moments. I've covered a lot of that. TLC match, John Cena Rock, surprise return, heel turn. These are all things I think I pretty much covered. I think I did a pretty good retrospective of his career, both good and bad. Um, Again, he's had some great moments. He's had some bad moments. Kevin Owens, he put Kevin Owens over, and Kevin Owens has been a solid member of the roster. His feud, Randy Orton. Randy Orton is his Lex Luthor, if you ask me. And I was excited. Oddly enough, never had a match at WrestleMania. They had that triple threat, but they never had a one-on-one at Mania. Crazy. Crazy. Him and Umaga had some wars. Where I think Rusev could have been. Rusev could have been in that same vein. I didn't watch the Cena AJ Styles match from Crown Jewel because I want to say that was on ESPN, and why would I? Why would I even? Just wasn't gonna do that. I need to watch that. So let's wrap it up. Let's go. All that being said, it's been a very interesting career for John Cena. I refuse to call him the GOAT, but in WWE terms, I understand why they say that. Never before seen 17 Grand Slam champion, probably one of the most decorated people in WWE, if not the, definitely close. Few times United States Championship winner, few times Tag Team title winner, World Heavyweight Championship winner, WWE Championship winner, Money in the Bank winner at least once, maybe twice, at least once. Well, he won the other one, I think, to win the titles, but it was still Money in the Bank. Intercontinental title winner. He has done it all. Tonight is the final match, supposedly. Tonight's the final match against Gunther. There's a lot of online discourse about why is it Gunther? Why ain't gonna be anyone else? You fans do not know what you want in real life. You never do. You people are terrible. You don't deserve the stuff that you get. But I'll be tuned in, man, because it's still on Peacock, so I'll tune in to see the last. I actually want to see Gunther squash him because I don't think Gunther will suffer any. Because Cena's not in the position to derail you anymore. I don't think Gunther loses anything if he loses this match, and it's his final match and everything like that. So he doesn't lose anything. He can come back and do something crazy tomorrow, Monday night, and then we're back on the Gunther train. But Would love to see, and if Gunther wins, he retires Goldberg and Cena in the same year. So that would be major. In the same time as being the World Heavyweight Champion, winning the World Heavyweight Championship again. So this will be a good year, even though he lost at Mania. The rest of it will be, he lost at Mania, he lost to Punk at SummerSlam. But winning the title, beating Goldberg and retiring him, and beating Cena and retiring him. Cena, those are two of the most, those are two huge names in modern wrestling. So, that'll be huge. That'll be huge for Gunther. I actually do think he deserves that accolade. And if you do that, you have to start making Gunther. I don't know what you need to do there, but then Gunther needs to be a problem for people way more than he is. And he already is, but way more than he is, he should be. So that being said, let's close this thing on out, man. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Black Fitness Network. And thank you for tuning in to talking about wrestling on this beautiful Saturday before the fucking cold comes in. I mean, it's cold now, but it's supposed to be like this cold snap tonight here in Memphis. So stay bundled up. Make sure you leave a comment if you have memories of John Cena, your favorite memories of John Cena. Make sure you leave those in the comments below. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe to the Black Phoenix Network. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Spotify. Leave a rating. Again, comments. I want to see comments. I don't get enough comments on these. Make sure you leave comments. Share. Tell people. Let's spread this network, baby. Let's spread talking about wrestling. I want to engage. I can't do it without you. But for everybody that's here so far, for everybody that's tuning in, thank you. And as I always say about this time, I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins. This is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. This is talking about wrestling. And for this Saturday, we are out.